RDA meeting is short. Wait, did Danny make it in? Kind of need him on the agenda.
Amy, I just sent him a text to
I do.
I just sent him a text and I forwarded the link that I used because I think he had the wrong one. So let's see if he makes it.
He is listed in the participant list right now.
Aha.
So Danny, if you want to test your mic.
I am here. My computer is slowly loading everything.
Got it. Okay. In that case, let's just go ahead and get started. We will wait for Anna and James, or we'll have them join when they get it all worked out. So first, I would like to welcome everyone to our Cinco de Mayo RDA meeting. So happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. And let's get this party started. This meeting will be an electronic meeting pursuant to the Salt Lake City Emergency Proclamation. This board meeting will not have a physical location at the city and county building, and all attendees will connect remotely. Members of the public are encouraged to participate, and we want to make sure everyone interested in the board meetings can still access the meetings. If you are interested in participating during the public hearings or general comment, please visit our website or call 801-535-7600 to learn how you can share your comments during the live meetings. We really do appreciate all of our public's feedback and comments. We are here representing you, and so it is important that we hear from you. So please, if not today, if you have other comments or feedback, email, call, you can text me, but our council comment email is council.comments@slcgov.com. You can find all of that on our website. You can even write us a letter. We take letters. So any way that you'd like to comment, we look forward to that. We do have staff monitoring inboxes and voicemails, and anything that is brought to the council office or a voicemail is also passed on to all of our board members. Everything that is agenda related and received through any source is not only shared with the board, but it's also added to our public meeting record. The standard order of the board meeting agenda will be adjusted to accommodate the electronic meeting. General comment and public hearings will be heard as one item. So anything that you would like to speak to on any part of our RDA agenda will begin at the beginning. You will have 2 minutes per public hearing item for your comments. We would ask speakers to conclude their comment prior. If you have more than one item that you'd like to speak to, you conclude one comment prior to beginning your next one. And as per always, just because we are socially distancing and we are unable to be all together in a room, this does not stop democracy. We and all of our staff value this important part of our country and of what we are doing right now, and we value your participation, and I just can't stress that enough. So although we're all sitting in our respective homes, we are here together listening and representing you. With that, we will start with our RDA meetings. We'll start our meeting. We've already started the meeting with comments to the board. Again, you can submit written comments and give feedback outside of today's meeting, but if there's anyone out there that would like to speak to any of the agenda items, let me know. And by that, I mean Cindy Lou will let me know. Cindy, do we have anyone that wants to speak to in general comments?
Sorry, Amy. I do have one individual who's joined the meeting. I'm just not sure if they're here to comment. So if I can ask that question.
Of course.
Mr. Burns. Mr. Burns, if you could test your microphone. He's muted him. There you go.
I am here.
Thank you. And are you here to provide public comment for a public hearing or a general comment?
No comments.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for coming. All right, Board Chair Fowler, we actually don't have commenters. We do have listeners in the meeting today.
Excellent. Well, welcome to our RDA meeting and thank you for joining us. If we have no public comment, we will move on to B1 in our agenda, which is a resolution for budget amendment number 3. At this time, for budget amendment number 3, if there's no questions, we would be looking for a motion to close and adopt the resolution.
Madam Chair, I move to close the public hearings for budget amendment number 3 and move to adopt.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion by Board Member Wharton and a second by Board Member Dugan. Is there any discussion on this? Then I will roll call in the order that you appear on my screen. Board Member Wharton.
Aye.
Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Board Member Dugan.
Yes.
Board Member Mano.
Yes.
Board Member Rogers.
Yes.
And I am a yes. Anna is absent at this time. So that passes. Thank you. I am now on item B2. This is a resolution that would amend the final budget. It's budget amendment number 4. At this point, and we do have it on our work session, this is the public hearing for it. At this point, I'd be looking for a motion to close the public hearing on budget amendment number 4.
Madam Chair, I move to close the public hearing on budget amendment number 4 and move to adopt.
We're not adopting today. We're setting it for future adoption, but I will take your motion to close the public hearing.
Great.
I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion by Board Member Wharton and a second by Board Member Dugan. Let's do this again. Board Member Dugan.
Yes.
Board Member Wharton.
Yes.
Board Member Rogers.
Yes.
Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Board Member Mano.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Anna still unfortunately hasn't made it, so that passes that way. On to city or agency business. We did close the public hearing for budget amendment number 3, but we do have a briefing on it and C1. So Ben, Danny, and Mary Beth, I don't know who wants to start us out. So, and I can't see any of your faces. So Ben.
Madam Chair, if the board doesn't have any questions on budget amendment number 3, you don't need to hold this briefing. As a reminder, this is an annual true-up budget amendment where the difference between the expected tax increment and the actual tax increment is trued up in the various accounts.
And we just adopted it.
I
So
was just going to say, I think you already adopted it.
I meant to skip that one and move on to budget amendment or to item number 2, which is the briefing on budget amendment number 4, which we just closed the public hearing for, but we'll take action on it at a future date. So Ben, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Cindy Lou, can you please put the staff report up on the screen? While she's working on that, this is the first briefing for RDA budget amendment number 4. It is just over $48 million for 4 items. Most of that amount, $44.6 million, is for a bond refinancing for the Eccles Theater. None of the proposed items are requesting funding from fund balance. And there's a table in the staff report that provides summary information of the funding proposals, and I'll walk us through that as soon as it's up on the screen. And it looks like Board Member Valdemoro's joined us.
Hi, Anna. Welcome.
I'm sorry about the delay. I'm coming. It's coming up right now, Ben. Oh. I'm sorry about the delay.
It's okay.
All right. If you could zoom in a little bit, Cindy Lou. Thank you. The first three items are all related to Block 67. This is the Eccles Theater. The first item is $160,525 in new tax increment revenue. And this came in higher than expected. As I mentioned earlier, budget amendment number 3 was the true up of the actual tax increment. And between budget amendment 3 and budget amendment number 4, there's actually additional tax increment above what was expected, even with the updated budget amendment number 3 projections. This funding would go to the taxing entities, and it is legally required as part of the agency's interlocal agreements with those other agencies. The second item is a request for $374,551, also in new tax increment revenue, and it would go to the debt service reserve. This was established a few years ago because the Block 70 debt repayment is expected to have shortfalls for years 2020 to 2029. The reserve is able to cover these annual payments. There's a policy question later in the staff report about potentially updating these projections for how much funding is needed in the debt service reserve, especially given the new economic reality and uncertainty we're all living through. If the board approves this additional funding into the debt reserve, it'll have a balance just over $3.3 million. The third item is the $44.6 million. This is refinancing the 2013 bond that helped build the theater. The board approval would create the revenue and expense budgets for the new 2019 bond to pay off the 2013 bond. The refinancing is expected to have a $326,000 annual savings, and the bond would be paid off in April 2031. Will you scroll to the next page, Cindy Lou? There are two more items, and they're both related. They are from separate funding sources, however. The first is in the Depot District, and it's a request for recapturing $581,503 that the board previously approved for a shared parking structure in the station center area. This was envisioned as a development incentive. There was not a specific location identified, and it was subject to future negotiations with developers in the station center area. The administration is requesting that this $581,000 be recaptured for station center acquisition and development, which is a much more flexible use. And the item below that is the same project, the shared parking structure proposed for recapture to the station center acquisition and development, but this is from the Program Income Fund, or PIF. And these are the agency's most flexible dollars because they can be spent in any project area. The Program Income Fund is payments and income from agency-owned properties, mostly in the downtown, such as parking garages. If the board approves the $2.3 million from PIF and the $581,000 for the Depot District tax increment, it's just over $2.9 million for the station center acquisition and development. And in the additional info section, there is a breakdown of all of the board approved funding for Station Center, which is a little over $12 million. And then there are 3 policy questions for the board's consideration. The first is if you'd like to hear more about updating the projections for the Eccles Theater debt service reserve. If you'd like to hear about how the Station Center fits into the recently updated agency guiding framework and core values, which is attachment 1 to the staff report. And the third question is if you'd like to hear from the administration on what the $2.9 million for Station Center acquisition and development could go to, and elaborate on what is envisioned.
James wants to know about question number 3. I'm getting really good at reading James's sign language. So Danny, perhaps you would address that for us.
Yes, I can address that. So the intent with this allocation is the agency currently has options. Excuse me. We have options on 2 properties within the Station Center area. One is the state property, and the other is what we identify as parcel 6, which is essentially somewhat towards the north middle of the block on 600 West. On the east side, this is a property that we have held an option on for quite a while. We originally obtained that option from ArtSpace as part of just squaring off that parcel. However, that option was subject to some requirements in terms of parking, as well as now utility relocations. So we had not acted on that option yet until we engaged in those conversations over the past probably year plus with ArtSpace. Originally, the property was subject to the provision that as part of any development on acquiring the property, we would need to continue to provide parking for the road home. And as such, in consideration of that ongoing provision, the anticipated purchase price would be very minimal for the agency. However, now that the road home is gone and that parking obligation is no longer relevant, we are now subject to the option agreement that says we would need to pay appraised fair market value for the property. So we're in the process of determining what that price may be. We're having those discussions with ArtSpace. And so in anticipation of that, we wanted to request that these funds be reallocated to pursue those acquisitions, since we are no longer in negotiations with the developers for any type of shared parking structure. So that'd be the primary purpose for these funds. Those acquisitions, if we pursue them, would come back to the board for approval. If we do not pursue those acquisitions, then we are proposing that the funds essentially be combined with what is already set aside for the infrastructure costs. And when we return to the board and present that infrastructure plan and the cost, then those funds would be subject to the same board approval for future allocation. The third item, as it relates to site development or current site costs, the agency is the owner of the CERTA building, which is essentially right in the middle of the block, bordered by 300 South to 400 South and 5th to 6th West. That building sustained significant damage during the earthquake. We're in the process of trying to engage a contract with engineers, an architect, and a contractor to determine if it can be saved and what extent we could do either immediate retrofitting or improvements to the building to put it in a position to be rehabilitated and reused later. So we felt that this pot of funds would be better used for those uses between acquisition, infrastructure, and site costs. And all of those would be brought back to the board for approval prior to any disbursement or use of the funds.
Excellent, thank you. Do you have any other questions? Any other board members? Okay. Well, if that's it on this item, then we will Jen, Bruno, can we adopt today, or do we need to put it on another RDA board meeting?
You don't have to put it on another board meeting. You could adopt it today. Your typical procedure with budget is to adopt after, so to have one meeting where you discuss it and have a public hearing, and then the next meeting you adopt it. But since no public comment was received and if there's no concerns from board members about doing that today, you could do that.
Board members, what do you think? Are there concerns, or can we mark this off of our plate and do a vote today? Yeah, Darren.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, this is more of a clarification for me. In the staff report that we received, there was some additional information about the overall RDA guiding framework. Is that somehow tied into this? Are we approving that guiding framework with this, or was that, why was that included, I guess?
The guiding framework was already approved through our mission and value statements at the end of last year, it was at the end of last year. I think it was just the, our staff just pointing out that if we had questions of how Station Center fits into that guiding framework. But, so that we would only be adopting the budget amendment today. And again, we can put it on next month's agenda meeting. Since we're all here, and there don't seem to be any concerns about it.
No.
And if people are okay with that, I'd look for a motion. No?
I think Darren has one.
There we go.
Yeah, I'll do it. Madam Chair, I move that the board close the public hearing and adopt a resolution amending fiscal year 2019 through 2020 final budget of the redevelopment agency as proposed by the administration.
Second.
I have a motion by board member Mono, a second by board member Rogers. I will go in order. Board member Mono,
Yes.
board member Wharton,
Yes.
board member Valdemoros,
Yes.
board member Johnston,
Yes.
board member Dugan,
Yes.
board member Rogers,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Great. Good work, everyone. Strong teamwork.
Yeah.
All right. Item number 3 is the loan adjustment for an affordable housing development in a high opportunity area at 2960 South Richmond Street. I'm wondering if, I do believe that, I'm looking around at our participants. We may have people from CDC Utah here. I'm not sure. But in any case, Tracy, are you going to lead us off on this briefing?
Yes. Yes, I am. And I just texted the CDC folks, so they should be joining. If you want to wait a few minutes, we can do that as well if it's better to have them on this portion.
Are a few minutes early, like 11 minutes early, but why don't, Tracy, you get started just kind of with the brief of it. If they have if board members have questions for them, then we can follow back up. But I think if you get started on the briefing, that'd be good, please.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so let me just share my screen first. Can everybody see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great. So good afternoon, everybody. So I will be discussing an amendment to a loan to the Community Development Corporation of Utah for the Richmond Flats project that's located within a high opportunity area. So I'll give a quick overview of the notice of funding availability for affordable housing in high opportunity areas. As a quick refresher, the idea behind the high opportunity areas is to measure a variety of indicators that have been demonstrated to impact an individual or family's chances of upward mobility. And the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute published the Opportunity Index for Salt Lake City, I think back in 2014. The board allocated $4.5 million of these funds to be available for affordable housing within high opportunity areas in 2017. And these funds were offered through 2 competitive NOFA processes and no viable applications were received during that time. So due to the difficulty in getting these funds out the door, these applications have been accepted on an open-ended basis. And we have seen a variety of challenges related to building affordable housing in high opportunity areas that include the lack of vacant land, limited multifamily zoning opportunities, and high land costs. So this map just shows the high opportunity areas in green within the city and areas in which the zoning allows for multifamily developments. And this was brought to the board around this time last year. And based on some of the initial analyses we completed last year, only about 10% of high opportunity areas is within a zone that would allow for multifamily development. So this just kind of highlights the challenges that we've seen with high opportunity areas. So the loan amendment is for a proposed project located at approximately 2960 South Richmond Street. It is located on the border of Salt Lake City and Mill Creek, and it is just located north of Brickyard. So here's a quick summary of the project. The applicant is the Community Development Corporation of Utah, or CDCU. The property is currently zoned R1-7000 that currently contains a residential fourplex. The property is currently going through a process to request a rezone for the property, and they are seeking a residential mixed-use zone. They are looking at approximately a 60-unit project, which will be dependent on whether a rezone is successful. They do plan to apply for tax credits, and if the zoning and loan are approved, they do plan to commence construction in March of 2021 with a 12-month construction timeframe. So the initial approval in December had the following terms. The request was for a $1.8 million loan, acquisition loan with a 24-month conditional commitment period, which would have required these conditions to be met prior to releasing the $1.8 million for the acquisition of the property. So the conditions included the property to be rezoned, the project to receive tax credits, for RDA to approve the final financing package and development plan, and for the project to receive all other city and RDA approvals. So since then, the applicant has come back to the RDA and has stated that the seller is no longer willing to wait until a rezone is completed before selling the property. CDCU has asked for an amendment to their loan terms. The proposed loan terms are here. The loan would be broken up into 2 phases. So the request is still a $1.8 million, but it would be split up into 2 phases. So the first phase would be the acquisition of the property, which is phase 1, and that could roll into permanent financing if a certain set of conditions are met, which would be phase 2 of the property. So the acquisition amount would be for about $1.52 million, or 100% of the as-is appraised value of the property as it is currently zoned. So this is based on the assumption of the single-family residential zoning that's in place on the property right now. The acquisition amount would have a term of 24 months, and the RDA would have a first position lien on the property. The payments would be deferred, which would be due and payable at the end of the term unless phase 2 is executed. Within this 2-year period, it would be up to the developer to meet a set of conditions, including taking the property through a rezone request. It would also include obtaining the sufficient sources of financing, approval by the RDA of the final financing package and development plan, and just receiving all other necessary RDA and city approvals. If they meet these conditions, the second phase of the loan in an amount of the $1.8 million minus the outstanding balance from phase 1 could be executed. If the conditions are not met and the second phase of the loan is not executed, CDCU would need to pay back the funds after the initial 2-year term. So in terms of just some other considerations, from what we understand, the rezone application is in process. Phase 1 of the acquisition loan in an amount of up to 100% of the as-is appraised value of the property is based on the current zoning. So we're not putting any assumptions that this property will be rezoned or anything like that. It's just based on what it is currently zoned as. And if the conditions are not met, as we had mentioned before, the loan will become due in 2022 and phase 2 will not be executed. In terms of a contingency plan, CDCU has indicated they will sell the property if the rezone is unsuccessful. And if CDCU defaults on the loan, which we do not anticipate, the RDA will have a first position lien deed of trust on the property, and we will be able to assume the property and either sell it for fair market value or develop it as an affordable housing project pursuant to the current zoning of the property. And again, this is the only viable application we've received in the 2 years since these funds have been released. Right now, I can take any questions, or RDA staff can take any questions that anybody may have. And I believe the developers should be on the call if we have any questions for them.
Yeah, I got notification that it seems Mike Ackerlow is on the in our meeting, and as everyone may or maybe doesn't know, but Mike is the director of CDC Utah. And then, do I have any questions from board members?
Yes, I have one question.
Yes, Anna?
For Tracy. So Tracy, on the appraisal, according to the zoning as is today, how old is that appraisal? I mean, if they submitted one, or how old does it have to be if they submit one before we release the funds?
Yeah, so they did submit one to us. I believe it was back in March. I can have Todd or Mike confirm that, but we do have a pretty recent one from the last few months.
Okay, so that number, then it's a good, more current number. Okay, thank you.
Do I have any other questions? And would
Board Member Fowler.
yes.
Sorry, Board Chair Fowler, although you're also a member. This is Allison. I just wanted to mention that, as I think Jennifer mentioned in the previous hearing, it is possible for the RDA to take action tonight. If you'd rather take action on the next RDA meeting night, that would be May 19th. There's a motion sheet, which I just barely sent a few minutes ago to board members. And I believe Cindy Lou may have a copy that she can put up on the screen in case you are ready to do that today.
Thanks, Allison. You read my mind. I was just going to say, unless everybody, unless any of their concerns or other questions, I'd actually look for a motion today.
I'd make the motion. I want to see the motion sheet.
Okay.
Okay.
It's in your email if you can open your email. Boo-boo.
So many different technology pieces here, right?
I'm happy to prepare it to share on the screen as well,
That'd be great.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, that'd be great, please.
Yeah, still looking for it.
I'm just pulling it over.
I'm dancing for your entertainment in the meantime.
Yes, I found it on my end too. So, Madam Chair, I move the board approve the resolution approving an adjustment to a property acquisition loan to provide $1.5 million for a loan to Community Development Corporation of Utah for the Richmond Flats project, which is part of the High Opportunity Notice of Financing Availability.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is that Dan?
I think that was Andrew.
Oh, it's Andrew. I couldn't see. Okay, I have a motion by Board Member Rogers and a second by Board Member Johnston. I will go down the line that you're on my screen. Board Member Rogers.
Yes.
Board Member Valdemoros.
Yes.
Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Board Member Wharton.
Yes.
Board Member Dugan.
Yes.
Board Member Mano.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That passes. And I just want to take a moment to say I'm really looking forward to having that money out there. It has been a little difficult to get an application to meet all of the requirements, but I'm glad we stuck by those requirements and are going to see something over in a high opportunity area that people can actually afford to live in. So I look forward to it. Good job, everyone. Congratulations to CDCU. We look forward to hearing from you in the future. And item number 4, any report or announcements from our lovely Executive Director, Mayor Mendenhall? You know, if you have questions asked during the formal council meeting, then I'm going to need a little participation on this side.
Thanks for approving the budget. And I like James's patriotism of the Rock.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us, Mayor. We always love seeing you here.
Thanks for having me.
Report announcements from RDA staff. Danny, do you have something?
We do not have any announcements today. Thank you, Madam Chair and the rest of the board for easy meeting. Thank you.
I do what I can. I don't have any announcements. Anna, do you have anything? She disappeared. She was like, I'm done with this meeting. There is nothing else on our RDA agenda, so we will officially adjourn RDA. Mr. Chair, when would you like us back for council meeting?
I think we're not scheduled to start until 3, but we do have a really packed agenda. So but we don't really have a break scheduled. So I think everybody take a hot 10 right now, and let's get started on time at 3.
Okie dokie. Thanks, everyone.